When God gives you a dream, others may discourage you, but God wants you to dream on and keep on keeping on. At a very young age, Ernie's desire was to sing for Jesus, and he's been fulfilling that desire ever since. A native of Indiana, Ernie grew up loving quartet music in the legendary cathedrals. Little did he know that one day he would be part of that group and marry one of the legendary group members' daughter, Lisa. Later, he formed Ernie Haase in the Signature Sound, and his songs have earned Grammy nominations, Dove Awards, and Billboard Christian Top Tens. But in the face of grief, his message is keep on keeping on. This is his story of unshakable faith. This is today's Nashville. Ernie, it's so great to be with you on Music Row today.
Thank you, Terry. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
It's so wonderful to meet you, and a Hoosier.
A fellow Hoosier, that's
yes,
right.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm originally from Newburgh, Indiana, and I've traveled the world telling everybody and they're all like, where's Newburgh?
You know what? People from Indiana, they're just wonderful, aren't we?
Oh, well, we are. We got a lot to be proud of in that state, and it's just a good place to raise a family.
Yeah.
And so,
tell me about your life growing up.
well, there in little Newburgh, Indiana, it was just, everything was wrapped around church and sports. You know, I played baseball, football, and of course, you get this because you're a Hoosier. Mm-hmm. Every driveway had a basketball goal.
Yes.
And so it's not like there was one that we just shared. So everyone had one, and
it was all basketball.
It was basketball, and then we'd set up some little floodlights, and we'd play all night long. So, yeah, it was a great way to grow up, and I guess we were sheltered, you know, from the world, but you know, that's just. I just cannot thank my parents enough for raising us that way, and seeing the value in it. And they're still there. My brother, they're still in Newburgh, Indiana, and so I still call it my home. They're my people, and so it's just and a great way to learn music too. There was a lot of different types of music in our high school, and so I talk to my high school music director. She's 92 years old now, Mrs. Kathy Ewing, and. You know, so there was church music, there was choral music, there was barbershop. I was in a 50s doo-wop band. You name it, I sung it. But I gravitated towards the gospel music.
Well, I read that you knew that you loved gospel music at the age of 8.
Yeah, well, music was always in our house. We would do things at our house called cottage prayer meetings. So that was when revival was coming to our church. We'd always gather at our house, and there would be prayer meetings to pray that God would just bless it and anoint the service, and pray for anybody that needed salvation. You know, so we'd have those times, and I was always the one, hey, Ernie, lead us in a song. You know, so I'd stand on the piano bench and start singing, Victory in Jesus. And so pretty much after that, they would say, okay, Ernie, that's enough, go away. Because I put on a concert for them, you know. But yeah, gospel was where I gravitated towards, and the story goes, this is the condensed version, second grade, I came home from school, of course I don't remember this, but just out of my mind with horrible headaches, and I had a really bad case of spinal meningitis. They had to do 3 spinal taps in one day, so it was just a difficult time for my parents especially. But I do remember being in ICU and all that, and God touched me. I came out of it with no side effects, just a little loss of hearing in the right side here. And my mom said there was a day I came up to her and said, can I sing for Jesus? She said, yeah, absolutely. I said, no, I want to travel. That's what I want to do with my life. I want to sing for Jesus. And,
so you made that decision at a very young age.
Yeah, something happened. I think it was because of those prayer meetings, and then at church, singing, and then we'd always go to nursing homes and we'd sing. I just think I like the connectivity of being able to not only perform but connect people to Jesus, and so I've given my life to that. I'm going into my 34th year of touring and writing and singing for Jesus. Yeah.
Tell me when you made the decision to follow Jesus. At a young age, was this at the time?
Yeah, I think it was about age 5 or 6. And I'll tell you, I've doubted this because as you're older, you know, a lot of times pass, so there's some things you may have forgotten about that decision. But I was 5. I was in Sunday school, and I gave my heart to the Lord, and I doubted that decision. It's just not fair to judge a 5-year-old's decision because it really is a pure.
I think a lot of people. You're right. They'll say, "Oh, do they really know what they're doing?" Or
Yeah.
you know.
And then I self-doubted. This was probably 12 years ago. We were doing a Gaither videotaping at the Cove in Nashville, North Carolina. I had just read Mrs. Graham's book, you know, and she was raised in a Christian home, and she said there was never a time she didn't know Jesus. And she said it just was not fair to judge a little girl's heart. It was kind of the same little verbiage that I was thinking in my mind. So I went up to her and I told her, I said, I have struggled with assurance all my life. And she grabbed my hand. She said, Ernie, rest in Jesus. This isn't about you. It's about what He did for you. And so it was like the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders that day when Mrs. Graham said that. So
well, I think there's a lot of pressure when people say, "When was your spiritual birthday?"
Yeah.
When people ask me that, I can't give them a date. Can you give them a date? I mean,
not on a calendar,
no. And so I agree with you. I know the time,
Yeah.
but I don't have a spiritual date. And sometimes people look at you like, well, don't you remember? And
Well, we're not widgets. I mean, everybody's different.
But I love, you know what
Mrs. Graham said, yeah. Well, like I said, we're not bots, you know. So everybody's personal decision to follow Christ is just that. It's personal, and so that's my story, and I'm glad I have that story. God has allowed me to go tell that story to a lot of people, and I tell it to young people when we do those kind of events. When I just say, hey, listen, you can go and you can spend your life trying to figure it out, and then have a lot of regrets, and a lot of scars, and a lot of emotional baggage. I've never known anybody that said, I wished I'd waited to give my life to Jesus. So if you're 5, 6, 7, come to Jesus. You'll never regret it.
No, that's a great message. What happened after high school?
But after high school, well, I had a partial music and baseball scholarship. So I pursued that. But in the back of my mind, I had heard a quartet, and it was called the Cathedral Quartet. So I was 16, 17 years old when I heard them. So everything was being formed by that fateful night when I heard them, because that was the culmination of wanting to sing for Jesus, wanting to perform, loving to wear a suit and tie. I mean, those guys were the embodiment of everything that I wanted to do. And so after a year of school, I got a call from the Cathedral Quartet, of all people, and said, hey, we followed you, we've heard you, and we're going to have to make a decision on a new tenor vocalist, and would you consider singing with us? Oh, man. It was like, and that was 7 years after I first heard them. So I prayed that night at 16, Lord, let me sing with them. And then that night they called, and He answered my prayer 7 years later. So God's delays are definitely not denials.